I love to use the podcast as like top of funnel because people are listening to podcasts already. You end up in their pocket on their walk every Tuesday, every Wednesday. You become part of their routine. And that is such a unique vantage point that we have to nurture and be part of that person's world. And so positioning it as the top of your funnel and then getting those people onto your email list is the next step.
Welcome to Marketing Happy Hour. I'm Cassie, consultant, podcaster, and your host. Every Thursday, you'll hear episodes packed with insights from brand leaders on an array of topics, from crafting effective marketing strategies and hitting career goals to building leadership skills and launching your own business. Inspired by those unfiltered happy hour combos with peers, this show is all about practical, empowering chats to support your professional journey. So grab your favorite drink and let's get to the episode. I'm so excited to have Kylee Chandler here today. Kylee has worked with some of the biggest names in online marketing and just now running her own business, passing along that knowledge to her clients and just sharing the podcast love out there. So we'll, of course, talk podcasting. We're going to talk lead generation with podcasting as well. And of course, we'll touch on career too. But Kylee, welcome to the show. So stoked to have you.
Thank you so much for having me, Cassie. We've been doing some podcast swap interviews over here, and it's been a really fun last hour that we've been hanging out together.
Yes, and we're going to continue it today, which is such a blast. Definitely check out Kylie's show. We'll have that linked below, and we'll talk more about that here shortly. But Kylee, I got to ask you, what's been in your glass lately in true marketing happy hour fashion?
So, something not as exciting or spicy, but I have a sick family, so I am trying to avoid it through electrolytes and broth, lots of
Oh
it.
my gosh. I love it. Yeah, got to do what you got to do, right? I just have water, so kind of boring too, but that's okay. There's a time and place for all of that. But Kylee, so as I mentioned, you worked with some pretty big names out there, Amy Porterfield being one of them. If you have heard of Amy, if not, definitely check her out. But how did you transition now to running your own business, and why did you do that? What was kind of the inspiration and catalyst for going out on your own?
So it's kind of a leapfrog thing that happened. And so I was with Amy for 5 years. And in those 5 years, I went from being like a content coordinator to a senior content marketing manager and took her podcast, grew it by 234% and generated over 20,000 leads from a podcast centric quiz. So had a lot of success with these very organic type marketing strategies. And so I always feel like my time with Amy, it was so fun and wonderful. And it was kind of like me developing my skills. And then I went and supported Kathy Heller as her chief growth officer. And that really gave me the confidence to know that like my strategies work and I'm good at executing them. And then actually after Kathy, I went and hung out with Boss Babe for a little bit and supported them with audience growth. And that almost helped me to figure out my systems. And so all of a sudden I was like, okay, I have the skills, I have the confidence, now I have the systems. I was like, I'm a mama and I'm ready to go on my own. Like, I think I'm ready to do this. I have what I need. And so I took the leap in January and it has been amazing in the best way. I'm loving it. I love my clients. I love seeing them implement these strategies and get excited about them. And as you know, a podcast is such a personal um thing that you do within your business. And so to take it and elevate it and make sure that it's getting used to the full extent that it can is so rewarding, not only for me, but for my clients. And so I'm on fire about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And to your point too, with your journey, it was kind of one thing after another, right? I love that that's kind of how it works with a lot of now entrepreneurs. Like for me, for example, I didn't expect to do this. We kind of talked about that on your show. And it's just, I started to have realization after realization. I just kind of fell into it. But there are a lot of people who do set out to do that. They say, I do want to launch my own business one day. A lot of corporate marketers listening to the show who are like, I want to launch a side hustle, or I want to eventually like launch this full blown business that I'm doing full time. What advice or inspiration do you have to those people saying, that's the leap I want to take eventually, but gearing up to take that? Like, what do I do, or what's kind of the mindset I should have in order to prepare myself?
That's such a good question. I think I kind of said it in the steps, right? If you're getting the skills when you're in a corporate job, like use that to your benefit and like gather the skills, gather the knowledge. If they pay for you to go and gain some new knowledge, use it. Like ask the questions you need to do, pay attention to everything you possibly can. If it's a company that's run well, what are the SOPs? And then really start to like also pay attention to the numbers so that you have some clout or you have something to use to build your business. You have data points or something that you can say, hey, I did this. These are the numbers I have that I can prove. And then really when it comes to mindset, I think it comes to just knowing that like entrepreneurship is going to be a roller coaster. Set yourself up for it. Don't just dive in unless you're really ready to financially because it's going to cause so much stress. But like find the way that you can leapfrog your way into it so that it feels really good. And the other thing I'll say is I so firmly believe in finding mentors, paying for mentors. If somebody has done what you want to do, pay for it. Like if you don't wade your way through the muck, like let somebody guide you to get there so much faster. That's why we have programs out there to support you from going A to B quickly. I'm such an advocate for like paying to get results. So, did
Yeah.
that answer your question?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, paying for coaches or mastermind, like there's so many different resources out there, no matter which industry or what level of your career you're in or where you're at. And to your point too, that financial security starting out is so huge. So I tell people all the time, I'm like, start it on the side of your full time. Like, see if you actually like it. Like sometimes
Yeah.
people start it and they're like, actually, I don't think this is for me. Like, I'm good. I thought I would like it. And so it's kind of that beta test almost for preparing yourself for that bigger future too. So yeah, great advice. I absolutely love it. I'm curious too, like I want to pivot into podcast strategy. So one question I get all the time, and again, we talked about this on your show, but growth. Like, how do
Mhm.
I grow my podcast? And I know this is kind of a nuanced question, but I'm curious if you were to give a new podcaster or even an existing podcaster one piece of you need to be doing this XYZ in order to grow your show, quote unquote. What advice would you give them? Again, I know it depends on what space they're in or whatever, but is there kind of like a tried and true, you should be doing this strategy that every podcaster should implement?
It is difficult to answer, but in a good way. I truly believe that yes, you want to be consistently getting new listeners, but the real magic happens when you figure out how to bring the existing people who are showing up every single week, even if it's 100 people that are showing up to listen every single week, to get them on your email list. Because that is where you get direct touch to them consistently. That is where you can nurture them and then you can bring them into your world. You can pitch them into a product, into a consulting package, into a digital offer, into a freebie, like to continue to support them. And so I don't love to get caught up in like how many downloads am I getting because you can pay for downloads like whatever you can do that now and the quality is questionable, but if you can really start to develop super fans by getting the people who are consistently listening into your world onto your email list, you are going to see so much growth. Your podcast is going to feel good as part of your business. It's not going to feel like it's draining all your energy for what? And that's the problem I think with chasing just vanity numbers is it gets exhausting and you don't see the kickback. But when you bring them into your world, that's a whole different story. You can watch the conversion, all that stuff. One thing though, to get in front of those people is to really be intentional with the names of your episodes, the name of your show. Don't be cutesy, don't be creative, like use words that they are searching, the people that you want to reach. So those are like some quick things that you don't just throw up a podcast title for your episode. Don't just come up with a cutesy name that nobody understands or gets. They're not going to find you organically.
Mhm.
So those are a couple little things I can throw at you.
Yeah, great advice. I couldn't agree more. I think we get really creative and creative is fun, but if it's not clear and it doesn't execute why someone should listen or who this is
Mhm.
for, what the podcast is even about, then you're not going to get people into your world for the first time, in the first place. So that's so incredibly important. Thank you for sharing that. And then I think with that too, again, people see podcasting, I think it's very much glamorized. Like it seems like a
Mhm.
very fun thing to do, but it also has a purpose in our marketing engine. So I'm curious from your viewpoint, like how should entrepreneurs and brands be thinking about podcasts as a part of their bigger marketing ecosystem? Like how do we use that to push people to your conversion point or whatever your core offering is? Like what does that look like for you?
So I love to use the podcast as like top of funnel, because people are listening to podcasts already. We know this, we know the data. And using your podcast to, I mean, you end up in their pocket on their walk every Tuesday, every Wednesday. Like when they're driving to the car, they're dropping their kids off, they're waiting in pickup line. Like you are there, you become part of their routine. And that is such a unique vantage point that we have to nurture and be part of that person's world. And so positioning it as the top of your funnel, and then as we've talked about, like getting those people onto your email list is the next step. And there's various ways we can do that. There's a lot of fun ways like creating a quiz that's a podcast centric quiz. There's something as simple as just being really intentional about the ask, the CTA of every single episode, playing around with dynamic ads. Like there's so many ways we can do this. We can get them onto the email list. From there, you get to nurture them, and you can nurture them right into an offer. Like that's the beautiful thing is just, paint it out. Where do they start? They start at the podcast. What's the next step? And then where are you leading them? And using your nurture sequence, Cassie, I know you're all about email marketing, copywriting, using that to guide them right into an offer in your world. That's where we start to see our podcast really, really make sense. Now, a lot of people use sponsorships and things like that, and that's great for monetizing as well. But if you can get people into your world and they can buy a low ticket offer, a medium ticket offer, and then it leads into a high ticket offer, whether it's a digital course, a consulting package, that's where the magic happens. Like they're in your world, they've already shown you that they want to invest. They're listening to your podcast every single week. This is how we create super fans. This is how we create hot leads. And a podcast is a beautiful way to start that conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the ways to kind of expose your show to people is by showing up to those relevant searches. So for me, one of my favorite things is I have a question about something, name the topic, whatever it is, and I go to my favorite podcast platform and I'm like, I type in 2, 3 keywords around that topic to find relevant content around that. Or, of course, I'll go back to the shows that I already listened to and see if they have something around that topic. But with that, in order to show up for those searches, the keywords, the descriptions, the titling is so important. So I'm just curious, like, how are you specifically approaching titling and descriptions? This is an area that I'm always eager to learn about because for me, it's a lot of testing and trying and see what works and different elements. But just curious what your thought process is on that for your own show and even shows that you work with clients.
So, what's really interesting is literally yesterday I read this. I don't know if it was a study or somebody leaked, whatever, that Apple doesn't necessarily use the episode description so much as searchability, but it definitely uses the titles, whereas Spotify does use the descriptions and the titles. But the descriptions on Spotify, like they don't like keyword stuffing, which nobody likes keyword stuffing. However, we can work around it. And so the way I do this with myself, my clients, is you need to understand your top keywords, keys phrases. Like just have a Google Doc and just always be reviewing like what is my ideal customer searching so that when you come to the point where you're going to name a title of a podcast episode or you start writing the descriptions, like they're just top of mind. And for instance, I was just working with one of my clients this morning and we were looking at her title and I was like, ooh, I wouldn't have done this title, but let's workshop it. And she said, I had a really hard time making the connection between the two. And actually, she's in hiring and she's in career advice for women in AEC. And so it was all about, she said to me, people um, usually get hired. The best hires happen through networking. And so this woman came on and she talked all about how to really build a network that's going to refer you to people who are hiring. And so we started to workshop the title, and I said, what are people searching? And they could be searching hiring within a network or something like that. And we can use that as the title. Not super crafty, not super creative, but you know what? It tells the people exactly what they're going to hear. It's going to hit on those keywords, and I always try to aim on getting those keywords pretty close up to the front of those episodes. However, you also want to look at episodes that have done well for you in the past. And a lot of times, especially in our industry, we see a lot of how-tos do great. We see a lot of revenue numbers do great, right? So if you have a case study who come on and they say, Cassie helped me generate 10K in, a week or something like that, then you could play around with that. So there are different factors, but any time that you can be as succinct and use a word that that person might be searching, you are going to do so much better. You're going to see a little bit of a boost in your downloads,
Hmm.
new traffic. And that's the thing, you're going to be attracting new people because they're going to be searching it. It's not going to be same people every single time. And that's another great way to grow it.
Yeah. Okay. So on that too, are there certain tools that you're using to do your keyword research? And again, I want to emphasize that this kind of research is not just for podcasting, by the way. This is for blog articles, social media content, whatever. So what are you using just in like your general marketing function to discover like what are people searching for? Obviously, like I'm sure the platforms themselves are helpful, right? But is there anything else that you're utilizing right now?
Yeah, and I'm so glad you said that as well because this keyword like bank that you have, key phrase keyword bank, is something you can use anytime. Like you can use it for social posts, you can use it for blogs, show notes, whatever it might be, meta descriptions. So what I like to do is I hang out with ChatGPT and we go back and forth, and right away it's not going to spit you out a great keyword search, but push it a little bit more. Make sure that you're sharing who your ideal customer is, what is their pain point, what are their desires, like get into who that person is, and then go back and forth with ChatGPT. And another beautiful thing is a lot of entrepreneurs, Cassie, you said it yourself. I don't even know if it was today or in the last episode, but you said, like, I am my ideal customer. Same thing. Like, I have been there. And so I know you just inherently know some of the things that they're searching, right? So there's that. The other thing that's kind of fun is coschedule.com has a podcast title tester, and it's fun. I've been playing around with it. I'm not totally sold on it yet, but it gives you some good points to be thinking about and thinking through. So that's kind of a fun platform too. I'm
Oh.
hoping to create my own. I just haven't gotten there yet.
Oh, please do.
Stay tuned.
Please do. I love that. I will definitely be right there when you do launch that. But yeah, ChatGPT AI is a whole nother topic we could touch on, but it is your friend. So use it wisely, use it for that brainstorming. It's so helpful. I want to shift gears into email list building. So for someone, a brand, an entrepreneur, whoever it is, they're launching their list for the first time, looking to get those first 1,000 engaged subscribers. Again, I don't want to focus too much on the numbers here, but just looking to grow overall. How would you recommend kind of approaching that for a new list?
So when it comes to a new list, you have to identify like where your people are hanging out. If you're on LinkedIn, or if they're on Instagram, like be sure that you are present there as well. And anytime you post, it is totally okay to ask for their email. Like give them something that is going to serve them. Give them a free resource that they have to have. And then here's a free resource. I put it together. It's XYZ. It serves you here. Don't be afraid to use that time and time and time again. If you have a podcast, every single episode, you should be asking. You should be asking them to come over onto your email list, get this free resource. Sometimes you can just say, get on my newsletter, and then give them an explanation of why they should be there, right? Make it juicy, make it sexy enough where they're going to go over and do that. I would say, especially with a podcast, like mention it at the beginning, very, very baked in your intro and then at the end again. But I think a lot of people do get into this like save it till the end kind of thing. And you don't want to do that. You want to throw it right up at the front as often as possible, change it up. One thing that you can do, no matter the size of your show, is create dynamic ads to insert throughout your episodes. And what I like to do is I like to bundle a handful of episodes together. So, what are the themes that your audience is wanting and paying attention to? So, Cassie, it might be hiring or it might be marketing trends for you. So, put together 3 to 5 episodes that you just happen to talk about these things on and say, I threw together my top 5 episodes on marketing trends for 2025. Head here to grab them. And me as a marketer, I'm like, of course, I want to know what those are. So now you've given them something great. Now they're on your email list. You can nurture them. But when you have a couple things to play with there, you can test those out. So test a dynamic ad for 2 weeks, see how it performs. Test a different one, see how it performs, because your audience is going to start to tell you what they really like. And the more it resonates with them, obviously, the more you're going to get on your email list. So playing around with things like that. And don't also like, if you are on LinkedIn, you can put a link in your bio and
Mm.
just have something as simple as like my most recent free resource or whatever it might be. Like for a little bit at the beginning of the year, I did grab your 2025 growth trends report or something like that. And I was getting people in through there. So keep it simple. And at the end of the day, here's the other thing I think we forget is make sure that you're keeping those subscribers happy because once they're on your list, you don't want them falling off. And that's
Mm.
another thing that I see so often. I'll work with these people and they'll be like, oh, yeah, I got 500 new people or 200 new people this week, but I lost like 1,000. And so you need to be really thinking about how can I keep people engaged? What do they need? And if they are falling off, what's my strategy? So that's
Mm.
something I want to say too is again, we're like grow, 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 grow. Let's not forget about the people who are in your
Yep.
audience who have already raised their hand and said yes.
Yes, absolutely. Great advice. I nothing to add to that. I think that's perfect. The dynamic ads thing too is something I definitely need to look into myself a little bit further. So thank you for that reminder. Also, another thing I need to look into further is quizzes for lead generation. So I feel like we both grew up in like the quiz era with BuzzFeed, and like quizzes were so fun to go online and take. And it's obviously an engagement tool even still today. So I'm just curious, like, how are you using a quiz as something to build leads, build your list? And how are you using that within your podcast strategy? Like, are you getting people over there as a lead magnet to take the quiz, to get onto your list? Like, what is the process looking like for you right now?
So I agree, like quizzes are people just love them and have loved them for so long. They're just tried and true, really. And the other thing is if you do run ads to them, so if you create a quiz and run ads to them, they're significantly cheaper than running ads to other things. So that's something to keep in mind. But the reason that I love a podcast-centric quiz, especially for somebody who has been podcasting for a while, like you, Cassie, like you have, how many episodes do you have?
Oh, I think over 200 now. So,
100%. So you have
yeah,
somebody new come into your world. They're like, I don't even
right.
know where to start with these. Like, I'm very interested, but where do I start? So, the beautiful thing about creating a podcast centric quiz is you get really clear on who are my buckets of people who are coming into my world. And so you identify those maybe 3 or 4 buckets of people. You curate a podcast list for them based on where they are. And then the fun part is then you nurture them through an email sequence that's personalized. Like you can tweak it from the different buckets, but personalized to them on their journey. And then it ends at some sort of an offer. This can be more free resources. Like if it's somebody who might not be ready to invest, might not be ready to work with you, you can just simply support them with more free resources. If it's somebody who seems to be an amazing, let's just use you for an example, somebody who could be an amazing consulting client, then drive them to a discovery call. Not only are we understanding a bunch of stuff about our audience because we're asking these questions and they're answering them, we now give them a podcast playlist that's perfect for them. So now they have an opportunity to binge the show. Well, after they binge 5 to 7 episodes, they're hooked. Like they are an official superfan listener. And then we continue to touch point them on this nurture sequence journey to the point where, boom, I have something to take this further. Do you want it? Here it is. And we see the conversions do so well with these. Let's get your listeners, turn them into paying customers. Like that's what we should be doing here, right? That's how we monetize a podcast, like I mentioned. So that's why I love quizzes. People love taking quizzes, and it gives you so much. It gives you information, it gives you super fans, and it gives you buying customers.
Awesome. And on that, if you're willing and wanting to share, what platform are you using for quiz generation? Curious about that.
So my go-to is Interact.
Okay.
However, I think there's something called scorequiz.com maybe.
Mm,
And I think it just depends because with Interact, it's really great for like personality or
mhm.
archetypes or things like that. But if you have some sort of industry where you need to give like a percentage, like what percent are you to finishing your book or something like that?
Right.
And then it's like they take the quiz, they're like, oh, I'm 20%. I still need to do the 80%. That could be something good for that
Mm.
type of business. It just depends. But my go-to is generally Interact. I really
Okay.
like.
Okay. Cool. Awesome. Thank you for that. Yeah, I'm definitely going to check that out. I feel like, Kylie, we could dive into email podcasting. This is kind of like an overview episode, and we'll have to go deeper on a later episode here on Marketing Happy Hour. But I want to shift gears once more to talk about career for a minute.
Mhm.
Um, I'm just curious. This is a loaded question, but what do you know now that you wish you knew earlier on in your career?
Gosh, this is probably going to make me sound like an asshole. I'm looking at hiring. Like I'm hiring, I'm bringing people on, and it's so good to know what it's like to be in the hiring. And I got to hire when I was with Kathy as well, which was really fun. And I do love that standpoint. But being on the side where you're like hustling, you're putting everything into your business as an entrepreneur, like if employees could understand that, like from early on, I think it just makes you a better employee. Like you appreciate the work your boss has done more. I think it allows you to treat your position within the company more as an entrepreneur. And I, as a boss, want somebody who's going to treat that piece of my business like it's their own. And that is one thing that, when I was with Amy Porterfield, she very much was like, I want everybody to own their piece of the business, right? Like the podcast was like my own little business within her business, and I treated it like that. Like I had sleepless nights over so many things not that that's what I want for people, but that's I think that's really important when it comes to being an employee is really understanding and respecting like the work that's gone into it. Now, hopefully you have a boss who's amazing and you admire and you can have this really great relationship with. But I would say that that's what I've learned along the way.
Yeah. Great advice. And I think that just goes back to this idea of you're never too early in your career to start building your leadership strategies and like your
Yes.
people skills and all that stuff. So just remembering like start today, even if you maybe don't see yourself as a leader, if you're still figuring that out, like there's so many strategies that we can even take into like relationships personally with people, So it's so important. That's such a great tip. Thank you for sharing that. Kylie, I have to, of course, know where can we follow along with you? Where can we get all of your resources? Where can we learn more about your offerings? Like, tell us all the things about connecting with you online.
Yeah, well, I would love to offer your audience a free resource. It's the email and podcast playbook. So it's all about like how to grow them in tandem together. So grow your podcast, grow your email list as one. And so you can find that at podcastmarketinghub.com/playbook. And then come and hang out on my podcast, Podcast Growth Tools. Cassie's a guest, so you'll get to hear her speak over there as well and share her knowledge. And then if you want to book a call with me, I do discovery calls. You can head to podcastmarketinghub.com/call and we can hang out and just check out your podcast, see how it's doing, see where it can go.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Kylie, for passing along all the podcast and email list and lead generation strategies to us today. Really excited, and definitely reach out to Kylie and let her know how you're implementing this episode. I'm sure she would love hearing that. But Kylie, thanks again for being here today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Cassie. It was a blast.
Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. If you enjoyed this conversation, I would love your feedback. And if you're ready to take things to the next level, sign up for my weekly newsletter in the show notes. You'll get weekly career and marketing insights straight to your inbox. And if you have an idea for a future Marketing Happy Hour episode, shoot me an email, hello@marketinghappyhr.com. Thank you again, and I'll see you next Thursday.